And you know what's hard as a creative person is sticking to something. I know I'm a creative person. I've always been my whole life. I could draw, I could rap, I could, believe it or not, I could sing at one point. Uh, but yeah, you know, it's a lot of different things that I can do, and I have the type of mindset that, you know, if I want to learn something, I put my mind to it, I'm gonna do it. And so, to a lot of people, you can look and think that, man, you like, dude, that's dope, dog. You know how to do everything. You know how to do this, know how to do that. The problem with it is I'm such an unorganized person, and so I feel like sometimes my life starts to look like a scrapbook because I start this, I start that, you know, and one of the things that I've had to do as of late was to really map it out, plan, and start to do stuff. And I feel like when I plan, I get a lot more effective. Sometimes the planning, to me as a creative, is the boring part, but it's the necessary part. And so I think about stuff like even for my wife is pretty much a non-creative. You know, she's not really gonna draw pictures. She's not gonna be artsy. You know, when it comes to doing anything, designing in the house, she don't want to do none of it. But for me, I'm the opposite. But my wife is such a planner. You know, she does a lot of stuff when it comes to putting things together, and she thrives more when it's visual. And you know, when I say visual, I mean visual with a plan. For me, I'm just like, let me just get it done. And I find that I have a lot of like unfinished things. I have a lot of things that are open. I really struggle with taking the time to just see something through. And so, you know, being a creative has its goods, but it also has its bads. But if as a creative you can find a way to work a plan, start with a plan, visualize it, walk it on through, I think it can be helpful, you know. And you know, I think about, you know, another friend of mine who I remember I had an album that I was working on, and so, you know, rap album, and my friend was just you know, waiting for the album to get done. But I noticed every time we got together, he'd be like, "Man, how's the album coming?" I'm like, "Hey, I'm getting it. You know what I'm saying? I'm working on it." He was like, "When's it gonna be done?" I'm like, "Man, I don't know. I think I got, you know, XYZ left or whatnot." And so, dude said he was dropping me off. We was hanging out, went to get some chicken wings or whatnot. Came back and he's like, "Man, you know what? Go in the house, get a pen and a paper." You know, I went, got that pen and the paper, and came back to the car. And he's like, "Okay, let's map this out, man. How much do you have left?" You know, and I told him, I'm like, "Well, I got this, and that." Man, we mapped this thing out, made a whole plan, and I could actually, as a creative, see the end go. You know what I'm saying? Because like I said, my whole life is pretty much like a scrapbook. But to see the end go and to see the stuff mapped out, I think that was so helpful for me. And I needed it. You know what I'm saying? And so another thing, you know, we had a house we just recently moved, and it's a house that, you know, at the time we were renting out. And I just remember, you know, my wife had left me over at this house for like 2 weeks. You know, she was doing her thing, and, you know, I was the one just ripping and running, doing all the labor or whatnot at the house. My wife asked me again the same question. And she was like, "So, how much do we have left to finish up the house?" And I told her, I'm like, "I really don't know, but I know I got this to do, that to do, this and that, or whatever." And so to me, I just seen, you know, a big mess. And I was kind of discouraged because I'm like, I'm working every day, but it feels like I'm not getting anything done. And so I remember after that 2 week period, she came over and she was kind of frustrated with me. I know she was. But, you know, she came over and she was like, "So what's all left?" And she was like, she seen the mess and stuff. And, you know, the way her mind works is like she went, it was 3 bedroom, 1 bath or whatever, right? But she went through the house and she went into the first bedroom. She said, "What all is left to be done in here?" Man, like we went pop pop pop, you know what I'm saying? Did those few things, got that together, and then we went to the next room, you know what I'm saying? And we did that, you know what I'm saying? Pop pop pop. Everything need to get done. Go to the other room, pop pop pop. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, dang. So looking at it, my big mess, I had a whole house to finish, but you know, when she came over and just kind of put a roadmap out there and put some organization to my chaos, what I ended up finding was like, dang, like this is crazy because, you know, this big house that I had to do turned into, you know, after we done the first room, boom, she shut the door. You know what I'm saying? So it made the house smaller. When did the second room, shut that door, made the house smaller. Third room, shut the door, made the house smaller. So now all I got is the kitchen, I got the living room, and I got the bathroom to finish. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, here's this big mess that I was doing, but you know, it ended up turning into a small project just because I had organization. And so, yeah, as a creative, even if you are not the one to push yourself to get things done, right? Find somebody or find some way to be able to map out a plan so that you can start getting things done, because you know being a creative is definitely a gift, but it's also a curse too if you don't have any type of structure with it. So you know my advice here is, you know, try to work with a plan, do whatever it takes to, you know, get a plan popping. And yeah, so I hope this was helpful and just, you know, telling you my experiences. And yeah, but I'm Damien, and until the next video, I'm out. Peace.